So I'm going to get back to that point, but I'd like to get back to it in context. I want to make this as short as I can and get the points across so that we can get inside to see it. You are standing in the courtyard of one of the great magnets of the Christian world, of much of the Christian world, and that is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the church that contains the traditional site of the tomb of Jesus. Why do I say traditional? Because there are two places. Because the whole Protestant stream of Christianity has its own location, but that was a location in a different part of the city. I see this look of bafflement coming over the faces. It's not going to be simple. Nothing is simple here. You know, what's funny is, if you think that the relationships between Muslims, Christians, and Jews are complicated, I come to the conclusion that the relationships within each of them are even more complicated. I mean, the relations between the Greek Orthodox and the Catholics and the Coptics and the Syrians and the Protestants are I think, make Jewish-Christian relations look simple. That's true. and the same can be said for us, believe me. So it's amazing. So in all of the denominations except Protestantism, this is the place that is accepted as the tomb of Jesus. And the building as it exists now encompasses two main places. It encompasses the tomb and it encompasses the hill of Golgotha, the site of the hill of Golgotha. But I think that what we need to emphasize here, there are several main points to emphasize if we really boil it down here. Number one, this is an incredible magnet of pilgrimage and has been since it was built in the early 4th century. Since it was consecrated in the year about 332, this has been a magnet for pilgrimage from the Christian world when it was not so easy to get here like it is today. And there are photographs of Russian pilgrims who came from the countryside in Russia and ate nothing but crusty black bread and practically walked barefoot from Jaffa, from the port. They would take these rusty old ships down through the Black Sea to Istanbul and then over to here, and then they would walk from Jaffa up to here. And there are photographs from the late 1800s of this courtyard totally packed with these pilgrims from Russia who were coming not to Jerusalem, they were coming to here. This is what they were coming to. So this is a old and rich and powerful tradition. But one of the other parts about this, which makes it so complicated, is that this is a place that also has seen its share of bloodshed, as Dorothy attested to with her question. This church, an earlier church, was destroyed by a Muslim ruler in the early 1000s. You remember we saw the Dome of the Rock, and we saw the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and that Dome of the Rock, when it was built in the late 600s, served as sort of a counterweight. When the Muslims came in here, what did they find? They found churches. And it was very important for them to build something that was a very conspicuous emblem that Islam is here, Muhammad is here, Allah is here. And that is the Dome of the Rock, facing the Church of the Holy Sepulchre by half a mile. Now, and then ultimately, as I said, there was a mosque built in the face of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And this is a kind of, by the way, this kind of tension and showmanship went in both directions between the Christians and the Muslims. And finally, in the early 1000s, the church was destroyed by a Muslim ruler. It was rebuilt in a sort of slipshod, simple form, but nevertheless, the fact that it was destroyed was one of the things that caused tremendous anger in Europe. And finally, at the end of that century, at the beginning of the 1100s, There were crusades to come and free the holy places from the infidels. That was the purpose. And the main holy place was right here. And when the Crusaders came to Jerusalem and put it under siege for a month, and then broke through, they butchered every Muslim soldier they found. They took the Jews, there was a Jewish population, they shoved them in the synagogues and set them on fire. And then they came here, and according to journals written at the time, in their bloody armor, gave prayers of thanks. So this is part of the reality, and this is part of that deep contradiction. Another part of the reality is that because there are so many denominations here, the main ones being the Greek Orthodox and the Catholic, the other ones being the Armenian, the Coptic, the Syrian, the Ethiopian churches sort of pushed to the side. This is now like a piece of this complicated structure is divided up like a piece of pie. This part belongs to this congregation, this denomination, this part belongs to the other. And these entanglements and these conflicts get so sharp that it brings us to the story of this ladder. If you look at a picture of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in the early part of the 20th century, you will see that ladder there. It has not been moved. I'm surprised it hasn't been modeled, because what happened was, and there's various versions of this, so I don't really want to go into it because there's like 5 different versions of the story. But basically, it's an argument between the Greek Orthodox and the Armenians. The Armenians have a certain part up there. They wanted to repair it. They put a ladder out. The Greeks said, no, that part is ours. And they couldn't solve it. And it's been sitting there since. And when we go up to the hill of Golgotha, you'll be able to see very clearly the part that's under Catholic control and the part that's under Greek Orthodox. And now it's become a delicate balance. There's actually an agreement called the status quo agreement that that constantly has to be gone over, that lays out this balance of what belongs to whom. But not so long ago, in the mid-1800s, there were actually armed struggles with farm implements between Greek Orthodox and Catholic priests about who gets to go where when. So that's all part of the tangled story here, but at this point it all sort of finds its balance. And the different denominations have services at different times, and so they don't get in each other's way. So it's a really delicately balanced little labyrinth. What's that? They do among themselves. Representatives of the different churches meet and go over this agreement of the status quo.
What year was the letter?
I think it was early 1900s.
Early 1900s.
There's an article in Biblical Archaeology Review that said that ladder got moved for unknown reasons for a few days and was in the left side. Just recently, but then it got moved back.
Oh.